Jujutsu Kaisen has reached the point where surviving one battle no longer means a character is safe. The Culling Game keeps changing because every victory creates a new problem, every rule can be weaponized, and Kenjaku is still operating several moves ahead of everyone else. Now the first teaser for the Culling Game Part 2 is here. Production is officially moving forward, and the footage is already pointing toward a more dangerous phase of the story. This is not simply another collection of fights. It is the section where the structure of the game begins to crack, alliances become harder to trust, and some of the most important pieces needed to free Gojo finally move into place. There is still no confirmed release date, so ignore any account presenting a specific month as official. What we do have is enough to explain why Part 2 could become the most consequential stretch of the anime so far. The first half of the Culling Game established a brutal system spread across colonies in Japan. Modern sorcerers, reincarnated fighters, and newly awakened players are forced into a points-based death game. The surface objective is survival, but Kenjaku's real purpose is to generate and manipulate an enormous amount of cursed energy. By the end of Part 1, the heroes have made progress. They have gathered points, tested possible rule changes, and located people who could help them challenge the game. But none of those achievements solves the central problem. Gojo remains sealed, Sukuna remains an unpredictable threat inside Yuji, and Kenjaku still controls the larger ritual. Part 2, therefore, begins with the heroes looking stronger on paper while their actual position remains extremely fragile. That contradiction is the engine of the next season. They have more information and more options, but the consequences of one wrong decision are now much larger.
A short teaser cannot explain an arc this dense, so its most important function is tone. The new footage emphasizes speed, impact, and a sense that the game is accelerating beyond the control of its participants. The visual focus is not only on Yuji, Yuta, Hakari, Kashimo, Choso, Angel, Kenjaku, and other major players represent different answers to the same question. What is a sorcerer willing to sacrifice for a goal? Some fight to protect people. Some fight because combat is the only language they respect. Others treat human lives as ingredients in an experiment. A strong adaptation has to make those motivations readable inside very complex battles. That is why the director and episode staff matter as much as raw animation quality. The audience needs to understand the rule, the strategy, the emotional stake, and the reversal without the sequence becoming visual noise.
One of the most anticipated elements is the collision between Kinji Hakari and Hajime Kashimo. Even without detailing every manga development, the appeal is obvious. Hakari's technique turns probability, rhythm, and momentum into a combat system that feels almost impossible to explain until it is moving on screen. Kashimo represents the opposite energy, direct, ancient, and obsessed with testing strength against the most dangerous opponent available. Their confrontation is not memorable only because it is violent. It is memorable because both fighters seem to become more alive as the danger increases. For the anime, sound design will be crucial. The pacing of Hakari's domain, the recurring musical or mechanical cues, and the sudden shifts between calculation and chaos could create one of MAPPA's most distinctive action episodes. This is the kind of battle that can generate clips, reactions, and discussion for weeks if the adaptation communicates the rules cleanly.
The appearance of Angel changes the hero's objective from an abstract hope into a possible plan. Gojo's sealing has shaped the entire post-Shibuya world. Every faction behaves differently because the strongest stabilizing force is absent. Angel may possess the ability needed to deal with cursed techniques in the prison realm, but help in Jujutsu Kaisen is never free. The important dramatic question is not simply whether Gojo can be released, it is what conditions must be accepted, who will pay the cost, and whether the heroes can reach that point before Sukuna exploits the same situation. This gives Part 2 a powerful countdown. The closer the characters move toward freeing Gojo, the more the story reminds us that another ancient power is waiting inside Yuji. The audience is encouraged to hope for the return of overwhelming strength while fearing what that pursuit may trigger.
Kenjaku remains effective because the villain does not need to win every individual encounter. The colonies, the barriers, the reincarnated players, and the political confusion are all parts of a broader experiment. When the teaser hints that the Culling Game itself may move toward an ending, that should not be interpreted as relief. A system created by Kenjaku is most dangerous when it has produced the result it was designed to produce. Part 2 must gradually shift the audience's attention from point totals and colony rules to the national scale consequence of the ritual. This is where the story scope expands. The conflict is no longer limited to sorcerers secretly fighting curses. Governments, institutions, and ordinary people can no longer remain outside the consequences of the ritual. This is where the story scope expands. The conflict is no longer limited to sorcerers secretly fighting curses. Governments, institutions, and ordinary people can no longer remain outside the consequences of the ritual. The Jujutsu world's attempt to hide itself begins to collapse under the size of Kenjaku's plan.
Current reporting around the teaser indicates a new principal director for Part 2, with Takeru Sato moving into the lead role after contributing to Part 1. A director change does not automatically mean improvement or decline. What matters is continuity of visual language, production scheduling, and the ability to coordinate episodes with very different demands. The Culling Game can move from tactical hand-to-hand combat to large supernatural set pieces and then to quiet conversations carrying enormous plot information. A successful season needs a consistent editorial rhythm across all three. Fans should judge the finished episodes rather than treating staff changes as proof of a crisis. At the same time, production conditions matter. Jujutsu Kaisen has previously generated serious discussion about schedules and animator workload. Spectacular footage is not a substitute for a sustainable pipeline, and a longer wait would be preferable to another production pushed beyond reasonable limits.
Anime-only viewers do not need a spreadsheet of every Culling Game rule, but they should track 4 things. First, who controls points and what new rules are being added. Second, which characters have information about freeing Gojo. Third, where Sukuna's interest diverges from Yuji's goals. Fourth, what Kenjaku gains even when the heroes appear to succeed. Those 4 threads turn complicated battles into a readable strategic conflict. It is also worth remembering that Jujutsu Kaisen often hides major emotional decisions inside action. A character may seem to be choosing a tactical move when they are actually revealing guilt, pride, fear, or a willingness to die. Part 2 will
As of now, Part 2 is in production, but an official release date has not been announced. Some predictions place it in 2027, but prediction is not confirmation. The amount of material, the complexity of the battles, and MAPPA's wider schedule make a later release plausible. Yet, the responsible position is simple. Wait for the official anime account or event announcement. This uncertainty can actually help the project if it gives the team enough time. The Culling Game's second half contains sequences that will be compared with the franchise's strongest episodes. Rushing them would create a burst of attention, followed by disappointment. A controlled production could instead turn the return into a major global event.
The most exciting possibility is that Part 2 will not merely be bigger than Part 1, it will reveal why the game was built in the first place. Hakari and Kashimo can deliver the spectacle. Angel and the prison realm provide the hope. Kenjaku supplies the long-term threat. Sukuna is the hidden disaster that can invalidate every plan. When those threads converge, the Culling Game stops feeling like a tournament and becomes the mechanism that pushes the entire story toward its final crisis. Which element are you waiting for most? Hakari's domain, Kashimo's battles, the plan to free Gojo, or Kenjaku's endgame? Comment with your choice, but label manga spoilers clearly. Subscribe if you want the next breakdown immediately after the release date or full trailer is announced.
Choso is also positioned to become much more important than a supporting fighter. His connection to Yuji has already transformed from hostility into an intense form of brotherhood, and that relationship gives the wider conflict a personal center. Choso understands that Kenjaku does not view family, bodies, or identity as sacred. Everything can become material for an experiment. That knowledge makes his opposition to Kenjaku more than revenge. It is a rejection of the idea that people can be designed, discarded, and rewritten without consequence. Part 2 can use Choso to connect the abstract mechanics of the Culling Game to the human damage behind Kenjaku's history. His scenes should not be treated merely as transitions between larger battles. They are part of the story's emotional argument about whether inherited violence determines what someone becomes.